Hello, friends. Today's episode is brought to you by From Within Records. Temple Guard just released the Morbid Sacrament EP. If you haven't had a chance, please go boot up your Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Bandcamp, whatever. Go support that band, stream their music. Do yourself a favor, go buy a record while supplies last. Awesome band. If you're not following From Within Records on social media, please go boot up X, go boot up Instagram, click that follow button to stay up to date on all the current news. And like I always say, please support From Within Records because they support us. If you're looking for high quality merch for your band or for your business, please hit up my friends over at Good Fortune Printing out of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You can follow them on Instagram at Good Fortune Printing. Or if you want to get in contact with them, please email them, contact@goodfortuneprinting.com. You can thank me later. On today's episode, we got to track down our good friend, Rayhan. Plays in a band called Through and Through, coming out of the Providence, Rhode Island area. If you're not familiar with Through and Through, please, I highly suggest you hit pause and go listen to the demo. It's so awesome. I'm such a fan of that band, and I'm really, really digging this wave of just straight up hardcore bands coming through. So this is an awesome time, and I'm just a fan. So please, like I said, do yourself a favor. Go listen to the demo. It's awesome. I'm a really big fan. And then come back here and listen to Rayhan and I talk about his story through hardcore. And it's awesome. I'm such a fan of him and his friends and what they're doing. It's what I want all young kids to do, to empower your scene, to make a change in your scene. It's just such an awesome thing to be a witness to and to be a fan of. So I'm really excited to see all the cool stuff going on out there in the Providence, Rhode Island area. They have a lot of cool things going on, and it's just such a pleasure for me to know some of the key players behind of all the cool stuff going on. And it's just a testament to people wanting to make a change, right? They're stepping up, starting bands, booking shows, and just making their scene a destination. So I think that's possible with every scene. It just takes a lot of work. So if you're dedicated, you put in the work, you can make a positive change. They're a prime example of it. So please strap in, enjoy this conversation. Without further ado, welcome Rayhan to the show. We're recording. Welcome to the podcast. Rayhan, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. No, thank you for being down, because I'm a huge fan of the band that you play in Through and Through. So I was put on to you guys by our mutual friend, Nick Bertles.
Right. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for the kind words. Nick is, Nick and Evan and Dragon are kind of like my old heads in Providence, which is funny because they're all only a couple of years older than me. And all three of them are a big part of the reason why Through and Through TNT exists. So yeah, it's been fun. It's all of our first bands, which except for Logan, who's also an ankle biter, of course. But yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, and I'm just curious because I just want to hear about your journey because I know that you're like newer to hardcore, so I'm just curious how you found out about it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I mentioned Nick, Evan, and Trangon are have been like my old heads, so to say, and like that, you can like trace that back to me getting into hardcore because basically the first show I went to, like my first real exposure to hardcore, I was into like pop punk kind of loosely before that, and then just like random stuff like I don't know, like emo and that kind of stuff, and indie music. You get the idea. And I went to a Fiddlehead record release show that got moved to Providence last minute. I had just moved to Providence for school. I'm from Long Island, but I just moved there for school, and so I saw on some like local shows page or something like that that the Fiddlehead record release for Between the Richness had been moved to the Met in Providence last minute. It was like a day or two before the show happened, and I had heard one Fiddlehead song. I don't remember which one anymore, but it was off Springtime and Blind. I'd heard one before off like a Spotify like pre-made playlist and thought it was cool. So I recognized the name and I saw that and I was like, sort of had just discovered the world of like local shows in general, and really just like the fact that I could just go to those. I guess and this is also 2021, so we were coming off of COVID. Shows and even just concerts had just started happening again, and I went to that not knowing anyone there, knowing one Fiddlehead song, and I was like, kind of just blown away because they had a bunch of hardcore bands opening, and I was like, kind of watching in awe because I'd never seen anything like that show. And then especially when Fiddlehead came on, I was like, holy shit. But while I was there between one of the like opening sets, Tommy from Broken Vow just kind of like, I saw me, I probably looking like a lost puppy because I was just like completely new to all, the whole world, and was like, hey, what's up? And that sort of was like how I met all the people I just mentioned. And so like I found out I go to school with Evan, and I met him there, and Nick and Trangon gave me a ride back after that show. And, I got all their Instagrams, and from there on, I just sort of like was, my eyes were open to that world, and I started going to shows with Evan a bit later on. And from there, just kind of really got into it.
That's wild. Just this,
yeah,
just stumbling upon this Fiddlehead show, and it just kind of probably like altered course for your life. You're now playing in a really cool band, and you're part of this amazing subculture. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I also like Fiddlehead's now one of my favorite bands of all time, and like I had no idea what I was witnessing necessarily after like, because it was the Between the Richness record release, which also is one of my favorite records of all time. And, I don't even think I had listened to the album before going to that. And like, and now just to think about the fact that this was just like a random like Friday night for me or something, that I was like, whatever, I'll just do this because I'm bored. And it threw me into this whole world just like by pure chance. It's crazy.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't go to the Fiddlehead show. Like, where would you be right now?
Yeah, no, I have no idea. Like, maybe still, like, fucking just listening to pop punk and shit. But now, yeah, I mean, it's crazy because also, like, I didn't start playing guitar until well after I got into hardcore either. So, like, that, everything that makes this band possible, because the people I met, like me starting to play guitar and getting into hardcore, was made possible by literally just that one event, which is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, and how did you learn to play the guitar? Did Evan help you out, or did you just hit YouTube, or how'd you figure it out?
So I got a bass like a year later, and I was like, I feel like bass, I think I just kind of learned off YouTube, but like I was still sort of getting into hardcore at that point, so it wasn't like for that purpose, but I was just sort of playing around on bass really. Like I just got it as a gift and like, would play random songs here and there. I remember really wanting to learn um Mayaj by Descendants. That was a big like motive for me, and that was also like my first exposure like playing fast on that too. And from there, I came back to college, and one of my close friends, who's not involved in hardcore or anything, had an acoustic guitar just like laying around in his room. And having been playing bass for a few months, I was like, let me try playing this. And for, like within another week or two of that, I used like the last of my savings to buy a guitar and amp and just started learning how to play from there.
Wow, the dedication, the last of your savings to that's cool though. I love that you're willing to, spend the last of your money on something that you have a real passion for.
Yeah, it was a real sort of plunge, but I don't know, I think I sort of like just felt something that I was like, I gotta hop on this feeling and learn how to play guitar, I guess.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of hardcore kids that will be a part of the scene, but not do anything more than just listen to the music and go to shows. I'm just curious, like from your state of mind, like what made you want to, start a band just right away and basically get way more involved than just going to shows and listening to the music.
I mean, I guess it was always just sort of like a thing that I was like in awe of when I first started getting involved in hardcore, where I was just like, I feel like these are people I know, like just getting up and playing, and then we're gonna hang out and watch the other bands right after their set. And I was like, that I just thought that was sick. And as most people probably do, getting into hardcore who stick around. And I think seeing that and just being like kind of like admiring that made me want to, I guess, just join that as like a thing, because I was like, this is really cool. The fact that I had friends who were like just playing in bands made me want to play in a band. And I was like, I don't really know how to go about doing this, but from there it was just like I got help from some of the people I knew who did play in bands already, and I was just like, it sort of just like happened.
Okay, and I am curious, like how does TNT come together?
Yeah, so basically, to break it down, like the people in the band are me. I play guitar. Giuseppe I go to school with him. He plays other guitar, like second guitar. He plays all the leads because I'm not that good of a guitarist. Logan plays bass, also plays bass in Ankle Biter. Seth is doing vocals, and Josh, who's also in If It Rains, does drums. And so basically, it started with me and Giuseppe because we go to school together, and we sort of got into hardcore together a little bit. Him like maybe a little later than me, but we're sort of like figuring out how everything worked together, I guess, like, and like finding music and all that stuff. And we were like, once I started learning guitar and everything, we were like, we should start a band. Like it just made sense because, we were already friends and we thought it'd be cool to start a band. And we were like, okay, well, like we don't know who else would be in this band. And originally, we like this was like a long time ago. We were like, oh, we could get some school friends to do it. And that quickly fell through because it was just like, we were the only ones who were really like into hardcore. And so, we quickly figured out that it was like, okay, we should probably start a band with people who actually go to shows and shit. And from there, a lot of it was basically through Evan. We were just friends with Seth. We have like a little Providence group chat with just like our friends who live around here. And Seth was in that because he lives in Rhode Island. And we sent the demo of the first song, which I believe is called Advice Now, that we demoed out after we wrote it, and he, like, we were like, we should ask Seth to do vocals because he had been talking about doing vocals in a band otherwise. So that sort of just fell into place. Evan was on tour with Logan for Ankle Biter, and they were talking, and I think like me and Giuseppe starting a band came up, and Logan was like, I'd be in it because Evan mentioned us having members, I think. So like, and then Josh joined later on because we were looking for a drummer because we originally had Giuseppe, who was going to play drums, who's now also plays guitar, and he was just like rusty on drums. He played drums when he was younger and stuff. So we kind of were like, who do we get to drum? And I think it was also Evan's suggestion to get Josh on drums since he was playing drums in If It Rains. So yeah.
That's awesome. Shout out to Evan for helping out with two of the members.
Yeah, he also massive shout out to Evan. He also helped us demo out and write pretty much the entire demo, I think. So yeah, like this band would definitely not, be what it is without Evan. So huge shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Evan. Yeah, I honestly had no idea that he was recording bands. So when I found out
he was not.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I didn't hear about it. Yeah. I never heard about him doing it. But
no, we were the first band he recorded. Like we borrowed, I think he borrowed a mic from someone in the area. So like,
yeah, and it came out really good. So when I heard it, I was like, wow, Evan did this. This guy is so talented, which is, I'm not surprised, but it's just, like he still just continues to blow my mind, when I, kind of like look at the things that he's a part of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's in so many bands that like shaped like me getting into hardcore really, because it's just like, a lot of the shows I'm going to locally, it's like one of his bands is playing on it. And yeah, I mean, it was really fun to record with him because he's just like, all of us are close friends with him. And also like it being like a very DIY vibe, like because it was just us and him who like never recorded a band. It was like a cool feeling for like most of our first band demo to be like that,
100%. Yeah. And yeah, it's cool because I really admire like, you and your friends, because it seems like they're actually, kids who, want to make change, like, with their scene, and, they're clearly making moves and taking action and doing that by starting bands, booking shows, getting new kids into it and have them doing stuff. It's just so cool to see the scene out there grow over like the past couple of years that I've got to know like all of your friends.
Yeah, it's been really cool, especially I joined like, or I like got into hardcore as everything was starting to grow, and in the past year or so, I want to say, Evan and Nick have started booking shows in Providence, which has like really quickly taken off. There was a show last night, actually. It was Mind Force and a bunch of other really cool bands in Providence that I unfortunately couldn't get to, but it looked insane. And it was just like crazy because we didn't have that many like hardcore shows in Providence. It was like very scattered. And now like in the past year or so, like they've just put stuff together. So huge shout out to Evan and Nick again, like the millionth time. But yeah, they're doing very cool stuff, and definitely huge inspiration for all of us to just be like, we're starting a band. Because also, I mean, like the sound that we were going for, very inspired by like Locking Out and stuff like that, is not super popular right now in hardcore, I want to say, just broadly, because the past year or two have been dominated by like metalcore type of stuff, which is cool. And like I like seeing it and listening to it, watching to it, whatever, but my favorite stuff is that like faster Locking Out or like Youth Crew type stuff. So
yeah, well, I feel like your band is a part of this kind of like uprising in hardcore right now, where like the term regular hardcore is being thrown around a lot, which I think is very interesting and a little strange, because I just call it hardcore. But I feel like your band is a part of like this like uprising that's happening. Because I look at bands like like False Salvation from Philly. My friends play in a band called Firestarter out here in California. They're from LA, but they're like gaining way more popularity, but they've been good for years. So it's cool to see them getting recognition. And I feel like, there's like a ton of bands where, hardcore goes in cycles, and I feel like the heavier stuff, the more metalcore stuff is, slowly going to have to take a backseat to the, more faster, more punk, more U3 type stuff. Cause I feel like, the heavier stuff has been on the forefront, the most popular stuff for a really long time. But I think, a lot of people are just ready for change, and it just seems like more and more bands, more and more just like straight up hardcore bands are starting to pop up and just gain a lot more attention. And it's really cool to see, because I've been around for a really long time. So I've been able to see basically every subgenre of hardcore have their moment in the spotlight. So it's really cool to see like the wheels turning and like the faster stuff coming back, and kids really gravitating towards that.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's very cool to see, from almost, I guess, like the opposite perspective, where I'm like pretty new to hardcore. Like I feel like the first sort of big like broad trend I saw, it has been like metalcore getting really huge, and that's especially been in New England where I am. So because of like Afira being Connecticut based and all, so it's been pretty cool to see like how things shift like that for, I guess, the first time, and like watch as like styles go kind of in and out of like favor, I guess. And like, I don't know, I think more than anything, it's cool to see how like everything sort of gets a chance to be in the spotlight. And like, it's really cool that we have, happen to be doing sort of like a band in that style when that stuff sort of started to become like a block, I guess. Like, also, I mean, like, we dropped our demo in 2 days before the Steamroll demo dropped, which was like another one that was inspired by sort of the same type of thing, which was really sick.
100%. Yeah. Shout out Steamroll. I love New York hardcore. And you mentioned earlier that you moved from Long Island. Were you aware of any of like the Long Island hardcore scene going on out there before you moved out for college?
Pretty much no, not at all. Like, which is really funny now, because it's just like a thing that wasn't really on my radar. I think I had been to one AMH show, and it was like, there was like a comeback show after COVID, and I like ended up at that by chance, basically. And it was more, I don't remember it that well, to be honest, but it was more pop punk leaning. But I like was with other people, and don't even think we ended up staying the entire thing, and I didn't really know what was going on. And so like, I didn't really count that as like my first hardcore show experience, because I think it was also like more pop punk leaning anyways. But yeah, so I guess that was like the closest brush up I got to that, like the whole Long Island scene going on. But that's crazy to me now, because I mean, there's always stuff going on Long Island, like Standstill is one of my favorite current bands, but yeah, no, like really not much. And I've gone to shows here and there whenever I do go home, but hasn't been that frequent. So
okay,
it's interesting, because like I really just haven't had that much exposure to like the actual hardcore scene in the place I grew up. Yeah,
that's so crazy, but it's one of the I feel like one of the coolest scenes, because you mentioned Standstill, they just had their record release. Painted Truth is like one of the biggest bands.
Course,
they're out in Australia right now, and Koyo is like about to take over the world, just steadily. Like I feel like with every tour that they do, they're just getting bigger and bigger, and it's just awesome to see. I love Koyo.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to them. Like, I remember I saw a show that they played, I think, in Providence a couple of years, like They opened for Knock Loose in Providence. That's what it was and they were playing like a bigger venue too, because Knock Loose was already huge at this point. But um, I remember seeing Koyo on the bill, and I think I had heard of them before, but I was like, damn, this is crazy. It's like a Long Island hardcore band, basically, like on, coming here. So I was very excited about that.
It's awesome.
But yeah.
And okay, so you record with Evan, and like, how stoked are you that you're like, holy shit, like my first band, we're about to drop our demo, like what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, we recorded in, I want to say, late March, and that was like a pretty surreal experience in itself, because I was just like, damn, like, I didn't think like music that like I wrote with my friends would ever be like released. That's like crazy to me, especially considering, again, I started playing guitar like probably a year and a half prior. So like from that to recording a demo for a hardcore band and then playing our first show a month and a half later was just like super surreal for me. Like I, yeah, I mean, it was just like something I didn't ever think I would be doing. I remember wanting to learn guitar when I was little, and I think I got like, like one of those like small guitar and like really shitty amps, and it's never ended up sticking to it, I don't think, because I was too young to like teach myself how to play it. But so it had always been a thing where like I had thought about it in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, I'd love to learn to play guitar someday and start a band in theory. But that was always something I was just like, that's like, I'm probably never going to end up actually doing this, considering I've been talking about it for like my entire life. And then the fact that it happened, and then like I actually went through it, and then suddenly I'm recording for a band, I'm playing a show, was so insane.
Yeah, that's wild, but it also shows like, hey, if you're determined enough, you can make it happen. And it seems like the pieces kind of fell into place for you pretty fast, and I feel like you just kind of seized the opportunity, and so far it seems like it's working out really well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gotta thank my friends a million times. I mean, we've played so many like shows that are cooler than I could have ever imagined just in the first few months of being a band, and have just like, it's been like an amazing experience overall.
And was there ever a moment where you like hit the stage and you're like, this is insane, I'm playing a guitar in front of people and like kids are going off?
Dude, yeah, I mean, like the first show that we played, I had like blacked out basically. Like I remember just being like, like we finished that set, and we have like a pretty short set. We only had a demo out, and so we played the 4 songs of the demo and a cover. It was like 6 or 7 minutes, and like we played that set, and I was like, holy shit, what just happened? Like people were moshing and everything, and I just remember it's like a series of like flashes in my mind. It's just like a core memory,
That's awesome. And when the demo dropped, I had a hard time finding it because there's like issues with like the name on Spotify. And I had to like reach out to Bertles and be like, yo, like send me the Spotify link because I cannot find it. Can you talk about how that happened, if you can?
Yeah, that was such a struggle. So basically, we dropped it through DistroKid, and we got the, what do you call it, the final mix back, and we were like, okay, sick, we're dropping it as soon as we possibly can. So it was like 4 or 5 days later, and off the bat I was already kind of concerned, because I was like, it normally asks for like 2 weeks or something to make sure it drops on the right day, and we were like, we're doing it on that Friday because we were playing a show that day and we thought that'd be fun. And so we put that, uploaded it to DistroKid and everything, and a couple of days later it's like, your release is ready to go, and we're like, oh shit, sick. Like I was worried it wasn't going to drop, but everything seems to be working out. And so Giuseppe, our guitarist I mentioned earlier, lives in the UAE, which has a time zone that's much earlier than in the US. So come Thursday at like 4 p.m., we see from him, or like, I'm like, Giuseppe, is the demo out? and like, can you check, because he has, he gets everything early because of the time difference. And he like takes a few minutes, and I'm like, what's going on? And then he sends it a screenshot of it a few minutes later, and it just says through. And we're all like, what? And I realized, like, when you go on DistroKid, there is an option, like if your band name has an and in it, it will come up with like a little drop down that will say, like, is this your full band name? Like, is it through and through, or is it two artist names through? And I did select the right one. Like, I selected that that's the full band name, but somehow it still got confused, and it thought that I was trying to release it under two separate artists named through. So it dropped under some random guy who was making like folktronica music. And like, it was interesting for sure. And so I spent the next 3 weeks like harassing DistroKid in emails, because they would like, they responded to my first email being like, hey, can you fix this? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then, or I like asked for something, and then they just kind of ghosted after that, and kept like, they'd send something, I'd respond, and then whatever, the time frame they gave me, nothing would happen. And I would be like, what's going on? And have to email them like 2 to 3 more times. So it was just such a pain in the ass to like arrange all of that. But finally, after a while, they they came through. We're now through and through on, I hope, all streaming platforms, but at least Apple and Spotify. So that's what matters.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I use Spotify. Yeah, and it's definitely corrected there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, ultimately they both got corrected right around the same time, which is nice.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be tough to find like a new hardcore band on, Spotify, because either the name's like really common, or it's just like too new, and it's not like, for some reason, like it won't populate like when I search for it. But
yeah,
I
know what you're saying. Yeah, we luckily realized after a little bit that like if you search, like we named the release TNT demo instead of just demo, which was a good decision, because if you searched TNT demo even while it was through, it would come up. But if you searched like through and through or through, it would, like, you weren't finding it. So
yeah.
that was
smart.
the one sort of saving grace.
And who came up with the band name?
So that was it sort of just came about really organically, because I said something about like when we first made the group chat for the band, when we were like, okay, we're gonna do this. I like used the phrase through and through in a sentence, and I think it was Seth who was like, that's a good band name, we should name the band Through and Through. And that was it. Like, we hadn't even had the band name discussion yet, but we just had one, so it worked out really well.
Yeah, and I definitely like the TNT too. I feel like even just saying that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that was a very fun like, that all kind of happened at once. We were like, oh, we can also abbreviate that to TNT, and that's cool too. So it was a really simple process, and that's sort of like the whole like the aim with this band is we just kind of want to have fun and everything be like pretty simple and easy. And so like the name coming about in just like a conversation where we're just like excited because we're just starting, talking about starting this band where most of us have never been in a band, and we're like, that's sort of just like the ethos of the band, I guess.
And I'm curious, like, are you guys planning for any new music soon, or are you just happy to let the demo live for a little bit?
Yeah, so we've been writing throughout the summer, but since like we all sort of live kind of scattered sometimes, so I've been back and forth like home on Long Island. Giuseppe lives in Italy, so it's been harder to write and fully work on new music, but we've been sending demos back and forth in our group chat, and so we'll probably try to clean everything up, write some more, and maybe hopefully release something else by the end of the year. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Demo 2 or like a full-on EP?
Not sure, honestly. Probably closer to a demo 2. We'll see.
And Giuseppe lives in Italy full time, or just for the summer?
just so he goes to school with me, so in Providence. But yeah, he's from Italy and he goes there for the summers.
That sounds amazing. I've never been to Italy, but
Yeah.
it's somewhere that I want to get to at some point before I have to, pass on.
Yeah, no, it's like a gorgeous place, and like he'll send like pictures of stuff, and it's just like, damn, you really live there.
Yeah, it's like when I think of Italy, I think of like Jersey Shore and just stuff from like movies, right? Just like entertainment stuff, but like there's just like so much history there too.
Yeah,
I'm always fascinated by like those like old cities because it's wild to think that like modern day it's still active, but if you go back the timeline long enough, there's like crazy things going on over there.
yeah. I mean, I grew up on Long Island and then moved to Rhode Island, which two places that both have pretty high Italian populations. So pretty funny, but it's like it's very funny also to have a friend who's from Italy and then also like meet a ton of Italian people like growing up and living here. So it's funny to like compare Italian American culture versus like Italian from Italy culture. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like somewhat familiar to you, and it's not so foreign.
Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely Italian. I think Italian American culture's taken on its own sort of a thing in a lot of ways, but yeah, it's cool to see like the differences and stuff.
Interesting, but yeah, that tripped me out when you mentioned that he's living in Italy right now. But that's cool. Well, hopefully he has safe travels back, to school soon.
Yeah, he'll be back like next week, I think. So
okay,
we'll be back in full form. Actually, we've never played a show with our full lineup, so.
Oh, there's always been like someone missing.
Yeah, because Josh was ironically living in, I think, Spain when the band formed until I want to say like end of May, and that's right when Giuseppe had to go back. So we've had a fill-in drummer at our first show. We played a couple since with a fill-in guitarist. Shout out Clifford, and hopefully soon we'll have our first full TNT show.
The real TNT set, TNT at full TNT force. That's crazy. I was really jealous. I saw a picture of Peter Stein, Evan's dad, with a Through and Through t-shirt, and I'm like, where the hell did you get that? I want one of those.
So yeah, we I think we posted a couple of like leftover shirts we had on the Instagram for the band, and we were like, if anyone wants to buy them, let us know. And he swiped up and we're like, we're sending you one. Like Peter signs to go. Like we have to send him one for free. So
yeah, Peter's awesome. I actually went with him to Tijuana to see Broken Vow and Ankle Biter.
Oh yeah, that show looked crazy.
Yeah. I had a great time. Honestly, I went down there with no expectations because I had no idea what was going to go on. I didn't know anybody down there at the time, so I was like, all right, like let's just go. The worst that can happen is, we have a bad show, but best case scenario, we just have a really good time. And yeah, it was definitely a very good time. Met a lot of cool people, and yeah, the vibes were awesome. Like kids from San Diego crossed the border and went to the show, and like a bunch of local kids were there. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, Logan was telling us about that and how it was just like an amazing vibe for a show. Like seemed like everyone was super into it and just having a great time, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, I was blown away because it was on like this, like the back patio of this bar. So it was like outside and there was buildings surrounding the patio and we weren't that far off the main street. So I was just like, wow, this is really loud. I can't believe this is going on with zero complaints. Like I didn't see any of the neighbors pop out. There was no cops came to, bother us. It was really wild, but really cool.
That's sick. Yeah. Damn, I wish there were more spots like that.
Well, does TNT have any plans to like do any tours or anything? Or are you guys just kind of trying to figure that stuff out?
At the moment, I think we're focusing on staying like relatively local to New England area and Northeast. We've talked about it, and we're definitely not opposed to touring necessarily, but I think with the way that like the Providence scene has been becoming more of a thing lately, and like our friends are working hard to put shows on around here, and just New England in general, and like most of us grew up in the Northeast and are happy to see great shows going on all the time around here, and we just kind of part of the idea when we formed the band was to be sort of like a Rhode Island central, or like Rhode Island centered band, because there aren't that many Rhode Island hardcore bands that are just like like capital H hardcore or anything like that. There's a lot of like screamo and stuff like that around here, but yeah, not too much, and definitely not much within like I guess like the circles that we were kind of in. And so we were like really excited to start a band that was just very Rhode Island centric.
Okay.
And so for the future we might explore more touring and stuff. We're almost certainly going to do like weekenders around the Northeast and possibly like maybe into the Midwest and stuff, but we don't have any plans right now to go further than that.
All right, cool. You can be this nice attraction to get out to Rhode Island. Like, oh, like there's this band through and through. We got to get there, play a show so we can see through and through.
Exactly. It's us and Family Guy.
Okay. Well, doesn't Taylor Swift own a house out there?
I think so. Yeah. In like Newport area. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't like, I like Taylor Swift, but not as much as like the people that like go and like want to just see her house. And I like read some story. Yeah. Read a story about a guy like hopping the fence and like taking a shower like in her house. And like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah. Apparently the thing is like, you can't like, one of my friends who's from around here has told me like the thing there is you can't technically own parts of the beach, but you can like fence them off. Like, so that's what she's done. Like she's technically fenced off like a part of the beach around there. That's just like, she doesn't own it. So I guess it's not like necessarily like, I don't know, maybe there's some loophole where you can get on into her backyard. And I guess that really I'm sure that creates problems from time to time, but yeah, I like Taylor Swift too, like enough, but yeah, not that much for sure.
Yeah, I'm not like delusional where I'm like where I think she wants to like talk to me or go see her at her house. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, but I can't imagine being insanely popular like her, right? She can't even live a normal life, but
yeah, I mean, people like track her like every move basically. It's crazy.
Yeah I know people will like track like famous people's jets and be like, oh, they're going here today, I wonder why.
Yeah, there was that whole thing with like the Twitter account that was just like constantly saying where her private jet was going, I think, which was insane. But
yeah, maybe have someone with like one of your friends, or like someone with like a fake name or like a LLC to buy the jet to try to make it more private.
Yeah, that'd be smart. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know, that shit's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like I've seen her live once. This was like years ago. Yeah, it was on the Red Tour. Pretty cool experience. I had tickets. She was so out here. There's like a new football stadium, SoFi Stadium, and she was actually slated to be the first artist to ever perform there. And this is when, and she was gonna do this thing called like Lovers Fest, where she was gonna like do like an all day thing and make it fun. And I think there's supposed to be like multiple like people performing, if I remember correctly, but that was the year of COVID, so obviously tickets got refunded, and then COVID happened, and then she went through like all that stuff with like her masters, and then she re-recorded all of her albums, and then the Eras tour
Yeah.
happened, and that was just like impossible to get tickets.
Yeah, no, that was like the Eras tour stuff is insane. It's just like, is it still going on? I'm not really sure, but like,
I think it is.
like no one has ever been able to get tickets for that without paying like exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah, I have this buddy. I'm so jealous. So he works for this company that does her merch, and since they have like relations with the artists, they always get like offers. Oh, like, hey, do you want to go see the person whose merch you're printing? And most of the time he'll turn it down, but he also likes Taylor Swift as well. But since it was like such a big thing, it was like a lottery at his work. Like, okay, like everybody just put your name in. If you get picked, then you get to go. And he actually won. And he his seats were with like the friends and family section at SoFi. And he sent me so many videos. He was so close to the stage. I was like, oh my god, this is insane.
That's insane.
Yeah, I was happy
like
for him.
I've got a couple of friends who like work at venues in the Boston area.
Okay.
So like, so I know someone who works at the MGM Music Hall and someone who works at Fenway Park, and just get to see like shows all the time of like massive artists, which for free, which is crazy.
Yeah, because it gets really expensive. I pay a lot of money to go to like K-pop concerts, and I'm just like, I'm like, this is where all my money goes.
Yeah, I mean, I paid like way too much to see Olivia Rodrigo earlier this year, which was awesome. But it's just like, oh my god, this is expensive.
That's awesome. I really want to see her. Like, I remember when her first like tour happened. I think she played like this venue called the Greek out here, and it instantly sold out, and tickets were like reselling for like $1,000. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
This
I know
is
she
insane.
played like smaller venues than she should have on her first tour, I think.
Yeah, because she was already huge. She was, yeah, which is probably like, I don't know, maybe it was better for her to play like those smaller venues because she's never even performed before. So, imagine.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, like she played like this like sold out like mid-sized venue tour, and now she's playing like arenas, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's crazy. I mean, like, when I saw her at like TD Garden in Boston, it was just like, she's so clearly like meant to play in big stadiums that it was like, I didn't even think about it, but it's like the fact that she had this is her second tour was like insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I one of my buddies was he's like a professional like merch person, and he did merch for her tour, for the Guts tour.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, so it's just like I'm like following him on social media and seeing him at like all the different like arenas every night, like with like the big Guts trailers. I'm like, damn, that's so crazy, but so cool.
Yeah, that's wild. And yeah, I mean, that's like people go take pictures with all those and stuff. That's like a big attraction. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and is the TD Garden, is that the closest like arena to you? Is that why you went there, or why'd you pick like Boston for that tour?
Yeah, so Boston's about an hour away from Providence. So it's and there's a train that goes like right around TD Garden. So it's pretty easy to get to. There's no but there's not that many like big concerts that are routed through Providence, unfortunately.
Okay.
But yeah.
But it was worth it to go down there and see her at the TD.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going again to Boston to see Charlie XCX in a couple of weeks, which I'm super excited for.
She's playing the TD Garden?
Yeah.
Damn. I didn't know she was okay.
I know.
So I saw her at Coachella last year. Not this past Coachella, but the year before that. And she's awesome, but for me it's always just hard to gauge because like I know who she is, but I don't like follow her super close. So when I'm just watching these artists on like the main stage at Coachella, like it's just like I'm just oblivious to like how big they actually are, because I was only there to see Blackpink that year.
Okay.
But that's crazy because I know she just came out with that new record recently, and I will sing it everywhere. But that's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea that she was that huge.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty into her since COVID. She dropped that album, How I'm Feeling Now, which like I was really, really into. And I remember when this tour got announced, I was like pretty shocked when I was like, damn, these are like, like arenas, like that's crazy. And I think like at the time the ticket sales were kind of seemed to be struggling, and then she dropped the new record, and like I checked recently, and every like show looks like it's sold out. Plus, like resale tickets are like thousands of dollars now. So
That's
great
wild.
for her, but it's crazy.
Yeah. It's insane. I'm trying to think. I don't know like the next like big concert I'm going to. You know what's crazy is I was at work today, just like minding my own business, and I was just on Instagram, and I have a buddy who lives in New York who's into K-pop. So sometimes he'll like post like news that I hadn't gotten to yet, just because I was just like hadn't got to that part of the internet. But he posted that like this group that we both like, this group called Kiss of Life, that they're that it was like an announcement of an announcement. So they're gonna officially announce like this tour on Thursday, but like a U.S. tour. But the tour is actually the tour is actually going to start in Korea, and I'm actually going to be there in Korea when the tour starts. So I hit him up. I'm like, yo, I was like, I'm going to go to the first date of that tour, and then I'm probably going to go to like the 2 California dates, because they're playing L.A. and Anaheim, and I live in Anaheim. So I'm like, oh my god, this is insane, because like K-pop,
That's sick.
yeah, K-pop like girl groups don't really come to Orange County. But it's like
Right.
starting to become a thing, because I think they're starting to realize that, like, hey, like, 40 minutes outside of LA, there's this other arena that is amazing
Yeah.
and will sell really well. So I'm starting, like, cause there's a group coming, in like September, this group called G Idol, and then Kiss of Life in, like, December. So yeah, so hopefully 2025, that's like the new trend. More K-pop in Orange County, so I don't have to always go to LA.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like getting to LA is probably kind of a nightmare.
I just sometimes, I just hate traffic, and then
Yeah.
just the convenience, like, because like the Honda Center where like these shows are happening, like, is like 10-15 minutes from where I live. So it's just like, I would love to just be able to take like the nice city streets and not have to battle on these like dangerous freeways in LA.
Yeah. And plus, like, parking at arenas is already kind of a nightmare. But like,
Sure.
once you factor in like LA traffic, I'm sure it's even worse, and like takes forever to get out of there probably.
Yeah. And then it's just like, you're like, okay, the fun is over. I have to drive maybe
Yeah.
an hour home, if I'm lucky. And that's just like, you got to factor in like the traffic of everybody leaving the event, but then also on top of that, like just normal traffic.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, there's been times where I'm like leaving LA, it's like 10 p.m. and like we're just dead stopped in traffic. I'm like, what's going on? Where are all these people coming from? Like, this is insane.
yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. I mean, I've never been to LA, but the stories of the traffic have like terrified me. Like I can't imagine parking at like a big concert like that and then having to deal with that.
Yeah, so you gotta just hope to, like, for me, I always, because I'll go to like Staples Center or like the Forum, whatever, and I'll always just try to like try to park as close to like the exit as possible, so it's not that bad to get out. But sometimes, yeah, you just get like stuck in like the sea of it, and it's just, yeah, terrible. And if there's nobody directing it, and like they leave all up to like everybody just to like fend for themselves, that's where it gets pretty insane, because it's just like, wow, nobody knows how to drive. There's no like organization. Everybody's just we're just locked in place. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, I mean, like being from New York, I remember. Yes, it's similar because it's just like driving in New York. Period. No matter what it's for, when it is also just like a nightmare. And like my first concert was I went to see Fall Out Boy in like I was in like seventh grade or something, and they were playing MSG, and I went with my parents because again, or like with my mom and my little brother because again I was like in 7th grade.
Mm.
And I remember, to this day, I'm like a little mad because we had to leave before the last couple of songs because my mom was like, we're not dealing with the traffic. Let's like, if we leave, at the end when everyone else is leaving, we're going now. So me and my little brother were very mad that we had to miss that. But yeah, it's rough.
That's cool. Your first concert was Fall Out Boy. What a band.
Yeah. I mean, still my favorite band of all time. So crazy how that like sort of came full circle. Cause I like got super into them when I was a lot younger. And then like time went on and now, like learning how they kind of started in the hardcore scene and everything was like crazy because I was like, holy shit, like this is, like basically like this is what me and my friends are doing is like what they were doing 20 or 30 years ago. So just a wild thought,
100%. Yeah. Because like, it's just crazy too how like a lot of people don't even realize that a band like that big has like ties to the hardcore scene.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like to this day, I mean, they'll still wear like hardcore merch from time to time, which is insane.
Yeah, I saw a picture fully ground of like the singer wearing like a Mind Force hat.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
which is a trip. It's just like, wow, this dude's in like a celebrity doing crazy tours and still keeping up with like modern hardcore.
Yeah, and I mean like the drummer Andy Hurley, he's like still playing in hardcore bands. Like his band Sect with like members of Earth Crisis too and stuff like that. Like I know they just announced a couple of shows and like Hate Still Burns, who are from around here from Massachusetts, shout out to them, like are playing with them, which is just like crazy to me. It's like, damn, they're playing with the drummer of Fall Out Boy's other band. Like,
yeah, I remember I saw him at a hardcore show one time, and I was like looking around. I was just like, I don't want to like, try to treat people like they're not normal people, but I'm like, dude, that's the fucking drummer of Fall Out Boy. Like, I don't care what you say. This guy is a fucking legendary.
Yeah, it's like if there's anyone who I'm gonna like, kind of like put on a pedestal, whether I'm trying to or not, it's gonna be like the guys in that band because again, like they've been my favorite band since I was like 13. So
yeah, it's always a trip. I used to work for this merch company, and we'd always have to like ship stuff to like famous people, and it's just like, oh, I have to send this to Pete Wentz, or I would, or we would do business with the Madden brothers, and I was always just like, I love Good Charlotte.
That's insane.
Yeah, but it was always just crazy because like for like a lot of people it's just normal, but like for people who like the music, sometimes it's just like can be surreal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's so it's cool to see like people who you look up to like that, just like in scenarios, I guess, like just like doing the same kind of stuff that you're doing. But
yeah, I remember I was at Coachella watching Scal, and Travis Barker and his family were there. They were there, and I was just like, I'm like, it's cool that he's here, but then you got to think about this guy had to get up early. He had to get his family up early. They had to get ready to get here to see Scal on time. And
yeah, damn.
Yeah, so I was like, this guy, is actually down for the music because he showed up on time and they were like one of the earlier bands that played that day on that stage. It was just things like that. It's cool to see hardcore get support from people who are like way more famous and probably don't have to give their time, but the fact that they're willing, I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool to see bands like Scout like getting to the point where they're like getting that kind of recognition coming from the hardcore scene, and like having like a couple of years ago been playing just like full on like hardcore shows.
I try to tell everybody like years ago, I'm like, the Bay is doing some legendary shit, and even the people from up there were like, it was hard for them to take that compliment, but it's like, dude, when you look at, Scowl, you look at Drain, Tsunami, Gulch, like just those bands alone, like just like the impact that they've had on the scene, and then even like the newer bands like popping up, like Big Boy is just always insane. This band Foghorn just put out their new record. There's Condition One, Field of Flames, NHI, Summer Blue. There's just so much cool shit going on up in the Bay.
It's crazy. I feel like they're very like self-contained scene where it's like, it's almost like, you're not seeing like trends go through there. It's just like they're consistently putting out stuff that just like goes crazy, and like have like the biggest concentration of like bands that become massive throughout the country and like beyond hardcore. Even like I've seen like people who I know have no relation to hardcore like talk about Scowl and Drain, which is crazy.
I laugh when I'll pop up places and see like bootleg Tsunami merch. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is insane. Like, this band has gotten so big that like there's just people out there who just know the logo and they just know that it's popular, so they're just gonna rip it off.
Yeah, no, it's wild. I mean, you also like, even if you go on Depop, if you search like any hardcore band, I mean, like they're all gonna have like Scowl, Turnstile, Tsunami written in the tags, but also like if you look at the things for those, it's like a bunch of like bootleg merch made by those like the equivalent of like mall screen printing things, which is really funny to me.
Yeah, it's crazy because obviously like the bands make good money from their merch, but then like all these bootleggers are like, all right, we got to try to capitalize and trick some people into getting like some knockoff merch.
Yeah, I mean, even like it's funny to see hardcore merch in the wild, but like, did you see that like the picture of Travis Scott the other day wearing a Judge shirt?
Yeah, it's just like, okay, like I just want to know, does he listen to Judge, or does his like stylist like is it like a hardcore kid is wanting to big up the scene and slip that one past him because he won't even know what Judge is?
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, is it just from like you like stumbled into a vintage store, like a consignment store or some shit that happened to have like a Judge shirt because it was from the 90s going through or something? Like, I don't even know how that happened, because I feel like, it'd be crazy if you just listened to Judge, and none of us do that. But
well, there is a Judge gig coming up out in your area. Maybe Travis Scott will be there.
Yeah.
That would be okay. Like, hardcore would explode at that point. Imagine Travis Scott just shows up.
He just shows up at the Judge game. You think he'll show up early for TNT?
Well, you gotta hook him up with a care package.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess from his track record, he's the celebrity you least want at your local shows, but with the Astroworld stuff and whatnot. But
yeah. But there's always been instances like out here, like Soldier Boy has popped up at a show. I know DMX has popped up at a show in Arizona back in the day. Rest in peace. So I saw it in somewhere in the Midwest. I don't remember where actually, but I don't remember the details. But I believe Waka Flocka is playing with like a hardcore band opening, just like Bully, which I did see the flyer.
Out of nowhere, but
yeah.
I was like convinced that was fake. At first, like not fake, but like a bit. Like I thought it was just like, what if we just made a flyer with us with the Waka Flocka? But it seemed real, and then it like turned out to actually be. And I was like, no way.
Well, he did Warped Tour like a couple years ago, so maybe.
Oh, right, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So it's not too far off, but still, like that was years ago, and he's gotten way bigger since then. And obviously, like music isn't his main gig anymore, but still, like I think that's fucking crazy to get a show with Waka Flocka, because it's not like he's just out here doing shows like that every day. So I think that's wild.
No. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully kids Yeah, that's gonna be a weird crowd. Just a bunch of like thugs and hardcore kids. Okay.
It's just like imagine being like a kid going to see Waka Flocka and like the opener is just like a hardcore band with people like moshing like actually and shit.
Yeah, and I'm also curious too because I've seen Waka where he's done like a full rap set. I've seen him do an EDM set. I've seen him do half and half. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to see all these young kids and want to do like a half and half set, which would be pretty crazy too.
Yeah, I didn't know he also did like EDM stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah, because he saw an opportunity where it's like, all right, like I'm a famous rapper. Let me just go, spit on some of these EDM tracks and make a lot of money. And it just turned out to be really popular. And yeah, it's good move. Not mad at it.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. Fair enough. Good for him.
Yeah. And is because I saw the other day, Evan and Bertles were posting about how that Give Blood show, there's only like 50 tickets left. I'm sure that thing's had to have sold out by now, right?
I'm sure it has. Yeah, it's probably very close if it hasn't. But yeah.
That's a crazy gig.
Yeah, it's wild. It's been crazy to watch how, like hardcore in Providence has just like gone crazy out of nowhere. I think part of that is it's like a mix of like Evan and Nick have been grinding. I think the Bane show specifically is partially due to Tom, who books shows around, who's been booking shows around here periodically. He does some of the bigger ones like that. I think he's got friends in some of those bands. So, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we've got that show and Judge within like a couple of months of each other, and the Mind Force one that I mentioned that happened yesterday, and just like a lot of crazy shit going around here.
Yeah, and you get to play with Judge, which is pretty cool. Like legendary gig because I did see that that was like it's gonna be Judge's first time playing in that area ever, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's so crazy for it to be like a band we started a few months ago that we're now just getting to play like a show opening for Judge. Like that's insane. We were we were at a show that we were playing when we got the offer, and we were all like freaking the fuck out, just like at the thought that we were going to get to play with Judge.
Yeah, I feel like kids who are listening to this or who follow your band just see that that kind of stuff is possible for anybody, right? You just have to put in the work, start a band, and you could be playing with Judge in your local hardcore scene. Yeah,
no, totally. It's like I hope that we can be like sort of a symbol that like anyone can just go out and start a band and it'll be fun. You'll like if you just put in the work to play shows and make cool shit, like cool things can and will happen, which it's really, really cool, really unique thing in that hardcore has that you can't really get anywhere else, which is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. There's no like if you put in the work, like you can get on that stage, you can tour the world, you can make your mark. I feel
Absolutely.
like I feel like as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and you're writing good music, all that stuff will come. And it's possible for everybody. You just have to be willing to put in the work to make it happen, which isn't easy, but it's possible.
Yeah, no, I think if you put in the work, if you have respect for, the culture and the scene that exists and that's come before and paved the way for everything that exists now, I think like anything's possible really, which is, it's just like, I feel lucky to have, stumbled into this at a Fiddlehead show one day.
That's awesome. Shout out Fiddlehead. Great band. Amazing band.
Shout out Fiddlehead. Yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're not like super active, so when they do come around, I always am just blown away because it's just like there's a reason why they're so big.
Yeah, it's crazy also because like just like the reason that they're not super active is because just Pat's like a full-time high school teacher. Like at that show that I mentioned, like I met a couple of the students just randomly, which is crazy. Like this, he's just like in like two of the biggest bands that everyone in hardcore knows, like Have Heart and Fiddlehead, and like he's also just like a high school teacher who's like, his students that I met were like, yeah, we love Mr. Flynn. And I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, Mr. Flynn, super professional. I feel like, Have Heart is just like a once in a lifetime band because I was around when they were like an active band, and then to get to see them, go away and still be such an influence on like a whole generation of hardcore kids that had never even got to see them, and then to get to see them to come back and influence even more people. And oh god, it's just it's so insane. Like there's never been a band like that, and so I'm just happy that I've been able to like exist and get to experience that, because obviously like I love hardcore so much, but just getting to experience like such an anomaly like in Have Heart, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, you Have Heart is like at this point starting to like, or not starting to, but like has almost extended beyond the reach of hardcore a little bit. Like I've had people who like have recognized my like me wearing a Have Heart shirt in public and have just been like, oh, I like them. Like I saw it. They just came back, and it's people who I'm like, I'll ask, if they are like into hardcore otherwise, and they're like, oh, not really. So it's pretty wild to see that, because I feel like they're not like a super like, they wouldn't be my pick to show someone like as a first hardcore band, just because they, they're definitely a hardcore band.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy how like they're like larger than life, really.
100%. And I see you have the poster behind you from the shows.
Yeah. No, I went to both the New York and Boston shows for the reunion. So
that's awesome. I've never seen them in Boston. I bet that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of that show, like they, the pylon on the stage was like, it was so like big and like insane that like literally they couldn't keep playing the songs. Like I think there was a point where it was just drums and like people overflowing, like flooding the stage, and like the guitarist got like knocked down or something like that, which was just insane.
Yeah, that band is special. I hope everybody who is around today who wanted to see them got a chance to see them. I don't know if they'll come back. I hope they come back. But yeah, such an amazing band.
Yeah, truly. I mean, I remember finding them and being like, oh, this is like a different part of hardcore that I haven't seen before, Yeah, it's just like blown away.
I found out about Have Heart because I really like this band called Dynasty from out here, and I went to a Dynasty gig, and the singer was wearing a Have Heart shirt, and I was like, Have Heart. I was like, that has to be a band. And I was like, if the singer likes Dynasty, or if the singer Dynasty likes Have Heart, I was like, I got to check it out. And then that's how I got tapped in. Just because this dude was wearing a shirt, and I'm thankful for that, because if he didn't, I don't know when I would have like found out about them. I'm sure I would have at some point, but maybe not that early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also like, I feel like there's bands that I've definitely found, like older bands and stuff like that I found from just like going to a show and seeing like the singer of a band or like anyone in a band wearing a shirt of something older, and I've been like, oh, let me check that out. Like, and just find some stuff that I'm, never would have found otherwise. And just, I think that's really cool,
100%. Yeah. We're just, walking billboards for these bands. We're paying to advertise for them, right? So I'm promoting 100 Demons today. Please go listen to 100 Demons.
Yeah, I'm promoting Intervision. Shout out Springfield, Illinois.
They have such a sick scene. Shout out Springfield.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I would love to go out there just to go to like a local show and see their bands.
Yes. I went to Flyover Fest last year, and like their set, like there was, it's in Oklahoma, it's in Tulsa, and that's like not that close. It's like relatively close, but it's a far drive from Illinois. But they had like a ton of kids from Springfield came out just like to the fest, and that Prevention set was one of the most like insane, just like live sets I've ever seen of anything, because the entire place just like exploded. Like I can only imagine what it's like to see them in their hometown,
Yeah, and also I think the Flyover Fest released their day-to-day breakdowns for the fest this year, and you look on the flyer and you see day 2, and Prevention's pretty high up there on the flyer.
Yeah, deservedly so.
Yeah, I love that band, and it's cool to see them getting respect out there. I just hope more people check out Prevention, because it's such a sick band.
Yeah, absolutely. They came through Providence recently, which was really fun. But yeah, hopefully, they really get their, the recognition they deserve.
Okay. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast, because I'm such a huge fan of TNT. I hope to hear new music hopefully by the end of the year. And I hope to see you guys at some point, if not, out here in California, hopefully somewhere, out there when I'm traveling.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the kind words. Hopefully we'll cross paths and you'll get to come to a show sometime. Maybe we'll make a West Coast run sometime. I know, actually our drummer Josh is from California originally. So, he's talked about possibly doing some West Coast shows, and so you never know. Maybe we actually will make that happen.
All right.
I really appreciate you having me on. This has been really fun.
No problem. Well, I appreciate your time. We can do it again in the future. We'll just stay in touch. Sure. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate your time, and we'll be back soon. Goodbye.